Good morning and welcome to the 2025 Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber Real Estate Forecast. I'm Joe Bauman, President of the Birmingham Bloomfield Chamber. On behalf of the staff and our board members and ambassadors, welcome to what is always one of our most exciting events of the year because obviously from the room today, it is one of our most popular and we all know the importance of the real estate markets in our community. So again, thank you so much. The Real Estate Forecast is the second of 3 forecasts that we do every year. Our final forecast of the year is April 9th, back here at the Village Club. We are going to delve into the mysterious world of artificial intelligence and how your business can benefit from using this emerging technology. So it should be a great program. Again, the room will probably fill up fast, so if you're interested in learning more about AI and how you can use it to be more productive in your business, please join us on April 9th. Before we get started, I do have some acknowledgments and some introductions. First, I want to introduce the Chamber staff who worked diligently to bring this program together for you this morning. You all should have met Kelly Bennett, our operations manager, on the way in. Kelly, wave and say hi. Annie Burns, our events and marketing manager. Layla Broughton, our membership engagement manager. And Megan Davidson, our videographer. So if you see somebody shoving a camera into your face this morning, it's okay. It's for us. And we'll share all of those. So by show of hands, who today is attending their very first chamber event? Oh, look at that. So welcome. Really happy to have you. Little word about the chamber. So we have about 650 member businesses from our 6 communities that we serve. Birmingham, Bloomfield Hills, Bloomfield Township, Beverly Hills, Bingham Farms, and Franklin. We have a small team, as I just introduced, serving 650 member businesses. And we couldn't do everything that we do without the dedication and support of our volunteers, our ambassadors, and our board of directors. Our ambassadors are our foot soldiers. They help host events like this. They do our new member visits. They do our care calls. And they really are the one-on-one mentors with our new businesses. Our board of directors, obviously, they are the governing body of the chamber. They set policy, they approve the budget, they hire and fire the executive. Just saying. Hopefully they won't have to do that anytime soon. But again, they provide amazing leadership. So if you are a member of our ambassadors or our board of directors, please stand and be recognized. Thank you. I also want to acknowledge our sponsors for this morning's program. Thanks to the generous support of our sponsors, we're able to do these breakfasts and try to keep the price point manageable so we can have as many people attend as possible. Starting out with our diamond sponsor this morning is the law firm of Clark Hill. Our platinum sponsor is Bank of Ann Arbor. Our gold sponsors include Fenner, Melstrom & Dooling, PLC, and Consumers Energy. Our silver sponsor this morning is U.S. Bank. And our bronze sponsors are the Birmingham Shopping District, Community Unity Bank, and Bankers Edge Advisory. Please join me in thanking our sponsors. And then lastly, I want to give special recognition to our legacy sponsors. Our legacy sponsors are a smaller handful of member businesses that make an annual contribution to support the programming of the chamber. Through their generosity, we're able to offer a lot of our programming either at low cost or no cost to our entire membership. Our 2025 legacy sponsors include Michigan United Credit Union, the Bank of Ann Arbor, Fenner, Melstrom & Dooling, Comcast Business, Clark Hill PLC, and North American Midway Entertainment. Thank you very much to our legacy sponsors. So as I said, we have an amazing program today. We've got our moderator to the stars, Paul Magy. I'm sure all of you who are in real estate know Paul. Thank you, Paul. He's done this for us several times, and we always appreciate it. We have titans of the industry of commercial and residential real estate with Kathy Broock Ballard and Brian Henry, so we're excited to hear from them. It's going to be a great program, and I want everybody to know that our presentation this morning will be made available to everybody, so if you have colleagues who you think would benefit from the information being shared this morning but weren't able to attend in person, either because of a conflict or we had to close registration early, you can certainly share the information with them. So with that, I want to introduce our moderator. Paul Magy has been a member of Clark Hill since 2012. He represents owners, managers, tenants, and real estate professionals in transactional and litigation matters involving every aspect of commercial real estate. His mantra emphasizes understanding each client's business and developing cost-effective, creative solutions to vexing problems. Love that word, vexing. Paul was chair of the International Council of Shopping Centers Legal Advisory Council. He's a past Michigan State Director, is chair for Michigan's ICSC Continuing Real Estate Education, and was awarded ICSC's Trustees Distinguished Service Award. He is a past president of the Building Owners and Managers Association of Metropolitan Detroit. Paul is a lifelong member of the Judicial Conference of the U.S. Court of Appeals and is a frequent presenter at real estate conferences like this one. So with that, I will turn the program over to Paul.
Thank you so much, Joe. He forgot a really important fun fact, and that is that I'm the father of 5, only 2 of whom are married, so I am interviewing prospects. Well, you have such a treat that is just awaiting you this morning because we're talking about real estate, its value. We're talking about your nest egg, the most tangible asset in most of your portfolios, something of supreme interest. It's visible, we live it, we breathe it. It's something we are constantly discussing. It's so important, especially during these times of change, where the only thing we can count on is actually change. Our response to COVID caused behavioral shifts in our work and office environments. But now we're not really dealing with COVID. What we're dealing with is inertia, because we've somehow gotten to like a lot of the changes. Joe didn't tell you, but a fly on the wall at a board meeting was that maybe they should just hold this breakfast by Zoom. But fortunately, the determination was made to have this in person. So today, you're going to be hearing from experts who will be talking about, as they say, the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. You didn't realize that Donald Rumsfeld was also a real estate expert. But our experts are going to help you look at the big picture, but then also drill down to Birmingham Bloomfield, which is certainly near and dear to our hearts, but also so unique in very many ways. Before I introduce our experts, and for those of you who have been to this breakfast, you know that we do a little bit of a survey so that our experts know who it is that they're talking to. So just by a show of hands, how many of you are involved in the real estate profession as a developer, a property manager, owner, broker? How many of you here work in allied professions such as building, architecture, or any of the skilled trades? How many of you make it possible for all of these folks to be involved in real estate because you're involved in the lending community? How many of you work negotiating and documenting these transactions because you're in the title business? How many of you work in offices? Offices, anyone? How many of you used to work and go to, well, you all work. You wouldn't be here, probably. But how many of you used to go to the office every single day? Raise your hand. Every day, every day, every day. Keep your hand up if you still go to the office every single day. Every day. Okay, take a look at what's happened, ladies and gentlemen. All right, how many of you own your own homes? How many of you, keep your hands up, how many of you have lived in your home for 5 years? Keep your hands up if you've lived in the same home for 10 years. Keep your hands up if you lived in the same home for 20 years. Keep your hands up. My shoulder's just actually stuck. I'm getting into physical therapy. How many of you have been in the same home for 30 years or more? Okay. So this group cares. Now, we're going to get things kicked off this morning talking about residential real estate, and then we'll turn to the world of commercial real estate. We have some great speakers here who will not disappoint you. Because the waterfront is so large, there may or may not be time for Q&A, but if there isn't, I know our speakers will be available after the meeting, and as Joe mentioned, the materials will be available. I'd now like to call upon first and introduce our real estate expert in the residential space, and that is Kathy Broock. Kathy's really set the standard for excellence in residential real estate, earning the title of Michigan's #1 realtor, not 5 years in a row, not 10, but 15 years in a row. As a fourth-generation realtor, she continues the Max Broock legacy, bringing unmatched expertise in negotiation, pricing, finding the right home, understanding financing, honoring her tradition with every client and relationship, and her motto, not just doing what we do best, but even better. She attributes her success to a lot of family support and a great team at the office. Kathy is a passionate outdoorswoman. She loves climbing mountains. Hopefully this one's not too high.
I know, right now, I'm stepping up here.
Fly fishing, hunting with her husband Bruce. She also enjoys preparing and cooking that wild catch. I'm told that Kathy also has had a passion for music. Her favorite band is Aerosmith. In college, she was the lead singer of a band called It's My Party. She performed at Dooley's and keeps that singing passion alive, I'm told, by singing happy birthday to her friends, family, and colleagues. Are there any birthdays here today? Any birthdays here today? Darn it. Well, you'll have Kathy's number so you can have her come to your office. Kathy, help us dream on.
Okay, hi everyone, I'm climbing every mountain. I'm not used to standing up here, unless I'm singing, which is true. So thank you all, thank you Chamber for inviting me to speak to everyone. And I am interested in questions later if anybody wants to chat with me. There are a lot of realtors here that I see. And so again, thank you so much. Thank you again for this opportunity. I don't have notes. I am using the my clicker, which I've not used before. And I was saying to Joe earlier, where did Joe go? There he is. My father, Broock, was very active in the chamber. And we were just talking about how Joe, was it your first board? You were on the board for the first time with my dad?
As a volunteer. Yes.
As a volunteer with my father, Broock. And this is back when Max Broock bought Ralph Manuel. If you all remember Ralph Manuel on Maple Road. So a lot of history here with the Birmingham Board of Realtors of Chamber. So first of all, I would like to talk, now how do I do this? Is this, there we go. Navigating the industry. Hold on, there we go. So I don't know if many of you know this, but I am a fourth-generation realtor. Max Broock, who was my great-grandfather, was an immigrant. He came from Germany through Canada back in the late 1800s. And the reason why this is important to me is it motivates me. Right, so I think about my grandfather. He was in his 20s. He came over from Canada to Detroit, and he started Max Broock when he was in his late 20s. And I'm looking out here, and I remember when the Nagel girls started. Where are you guys? There you are. I mean, they were, little chitlins, and I'm thinking, God, they're so young. But I was 28 too. So anyway, you can start any business when you're young. But anyway, he started this business back in 1895. And the reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about the history is because when he came from Detroit, when he was in Detroit in 1895, my grandfather ended up taking over in the early 1900s because my great-grandfather passed away. So my uncle was in his 20s when he took over, which is a theme here, right? I mean, doesn't matter how old you are, you can do what you love and do well at it if you stick to it. So anyway, in the early 30s, my grandfather came out to the burbs or the farmland because of the Depression. And so you might know many of these neighborhoods, Rudgate, West Loxley, which is the Kirkway community, Overbrook. Anyway, my grandfather developed these communities, and I have 60 millimeter footage of my father with his little bow and arrow and his gun and his little Indian hat running around Rudgate, which was an apple orchard back at the time. Does anybody live in the Rudgate community here by chance? Do you know where that is? It's in the city of Bloomfield, huge area farm, south of Lone Pine Road, north of Quarton, east of Lasser, and kind of west of Cranbrook Road. But it was a farm. So that's how long we have been here developing this community. Birmingham in the early 40s, my grandfather opened up an office in downtown Birmingham, which is now going to be Restoration Hardware. So Frank's Shoes was bought out, and so was our building. But that's progress, right? I mean, that's what we're here for, right? Is growth and development, as much as sometimes it pains us to think that. The surrounding areas, Max Brook also was in Orchard Lake, Clarkston, Rochester. My father, who was then a third-generation realtor, went out to the Lakes District back in the early 60s, and he started the first lakefront office out in the Lakes area. Then he went to Clarkston in the 60s, and he went out to Rochester in the 60s. So the thing about this is that our surrounding communities also affect Birmingham and Bloomfield because there's all this migration that goes back and forth. And you realtors that are out there, you know that. You see that back and forth. You see people wanting to come into Birmingham, and you also see people wanting to go out to, they want to leave Birmingham and they want to go out to Clarkston or Rochester now because, we're so populated. But we've watched the growth here. About the buyers today. How many of you have been a buyer purchasing a home? Quite a few. So the process has changed a lot, and these are the questions that I get. What do we do because it's so competitive to buy a home today? And my Helen Reisner's here. Hi, Hel. For all of you who know Helen. The process has changed significantly. Today we have multiple offers. The pre-approval process is so important, so you lenders that are out there, it's really important that you communicate with your past clients and current clients because it is very important to have that pre-approval. But the whole process has changed. Cash is king. The purchases that we have now, almost 50% of them we are finding are cash. So realtors out there, how many of your buyers are cash? Do you see cash? Yeah. So that being said, the process is different though because the buyers really should meet with their lender first, have the pre-approval set up ahead of time, and know where you're going to get your money. The seller, staging is so important. My forte is going into a home and saying, oh my gosh, this is what you need to do to set up your home. And many of us have lived in our home for a long time. There were hands up that were 20 years, 30 years, 15 years. And what I find is that people like to collect. Well, the best thing to do is to start purging before you make that move, before you decide to move. Because what happens is we go in and we say, okay, we so appreciate you have your child's art on the wall, and we love all the photos of the legacy of your family and so forth. But the thing to do is to make sure that you go in and you process with them, because it's very emotional when you're selling your home, that you declutter and prepare and paint. And I think that that's another thing with photography and videography and the way that we are presenting property today. It's very important that we end up going in and cleaning everything out and staging properly before we represent the property online. How many people use the internet? Right? How many people look at properties while they're lying in bed? And, so that's the time where people start, the 3 seconds to 7 seconds viewing a property. Well, that is critical in representing a property, because you're competing against all these other properties that are online. So if you aren't staged properly, you will not have the same impact. Third party, this is where we're going. So Zillow. How many people use Zillow to look at property? Right. Well, the thing about Zillow is what it is. It's a third-party company. It's not Realtor.com. Realtor.com is actually it's geared more towards the realtor market than it is the consumer market. And so Zillow has information that may not be accurate. For example, if you want to find the realtor, you end up going to Zillow, you click on Zillow, and you get somebody you may not even know. I don't know if how many people have clicked on Zillow and not found the realtor that they wanted to speak to on Zillow. Well, that's very, very common. And so what we're finding is that the best thing to do is to educate your buyers and say, oh my God, or if you're a buyer, you're a consumer, please don't use Zillow as your main resource, because it is a great tool, but it doesn't have accurate information all the time. It's not comparing houses apples to apples. Somebody may have renovated their home and put hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, and the house next door wasn't renovated, and all of a sudden the numbers are the same, right? You're looking at your dollar per square foot, you're looking at the value base, and one neighbor may have invested more money, than the other neighbor. And I think that is an indication that Zillow doesn't really have accurate information. Also know who's representing you. I think that's important. We have a lot of professionals in this room, and I think that having a professional realtor is important. If you have a relationship with them, I have a few clients in this room today, and they've come up to me to say hello, which is so sweet. And but make sure that you know who you're using to represent you. Okay, they should know your wants, your needs, your timing. Relationships are very important in this industry. It's not just, oh gosh, I'm going to hire a realtor and they're going to discount their fee, so I'm going to use them to purchase a home. You are investing in the most expensive asset of your life. You're not buying a car, you're buying a home. So that's important. Market trends. You're going to see in these graphs that everything, we've had ups and downs over in the high-end market. You have a little bit more volatility in the high-end market. But all in all, things have been fairly consistent in that we are low in inventory the last few years. Very, very low. And so what we're finding is the secondary markets right now, due to some economic issues, are becoming a little softer. That to me is an opportunity for people to go and put their homes on the market now. Go buy your secondary home, because, for example, in Naples, right now, there's about a 20 to 30% correction in market. And for those of you who are getting ready to retire, or maybe want to invest in that second home, it's a good time to do that and then put your house in the market here, because right now our inventory is extremely low. We are seeing multiple offers. We listed a house in West Bloomfield last week, 100 showings, I think. 45 calls a day. And that was for a $400,000 home. It was actually $399,000. So whether you're 300 or 3 million, we still have low inventory. And so some of these graphs are going to show you that it's fairly consistent. There isn't a lot of volatility. It's been fairly consistent the last few years. 2022, was probably the best market we've ever had in terms of numbers sold, just because people were holding off for COVID, and then they put their homes on the market, and everybody came on at the same time. So that was more of an environmental issue or a social issue too, that everybody waited and then put them on. But this graph here, I mean, if you look, very consistent the last 3 years. So what that says to me is that we don't have the volatility. I mean, people think, oh my gosh, right now the stock market's not, it's not doing very well. And what I would say regarding that is that you're still going to see, my projection is going to be that you're still going to see a stable market this year, because you still have people that want to buy, need to sell, and this too will pass. It's a temporary glitch. That's my opinion. We've done this. I've been in this so long that we've seen this happen. So all we need to do is just stay consistent. The average days on market, look, this is the same. I mean, your average days on market here is stating that, from 2022, which was our highest market, to today, there's still stability there. It's not very volatile. Here, price dollar per square foot. Look at how high our dollar per square foot is, though. I mean, we are in the best market that we've had in a long time. I mean, we haven't seen numbers like this before. I mean, we're selling in Royal Oak and in Berkeley and Beverly Hills at dollars per square foot that are monumental. So the consistency, again, is what I'm trying to show here, not necessarily a specific graph, but just that in Birmingham Bloomfield, Royal Oak, Berkeley, Beverly Hills, Franklin, the market is still strong. The supply, well, that's another thing. Our supply is low. There are times when it's higher, there are times when it's lower. I will say that we're starting to see a little bit of seasonality as well. We haven't had seasonality because we had such a strong demand in 2022 and 21 that I would tell people, no, put your house on the market in December. It doesn't matter, it will sell. January it will sell. It's still the same because we are so low in inventory. The buyers are there. But for example, this December and January, we're just a little bit softer. And I think that, I don't know if the realtors out there can attest to that, but it's been a little bit quiet. That being said, I am urging people to go and get, find your business and have people put their homes on the market now and not wait until April, because they are going to get a higher number dollar per square foot. They'll get a higher price point, more buyers looking. And that's pretty much about it. You're welcome.
Thank you, Kathy. And now I'd like to introduce our commercial real estate expert, Brian Henry. Brian's the Senior Executive Counsel for eTitle Agency. He's responsible for the strategic direction and profitability of that title agency, which is licensed to provide title in 18 states and staffed with more than 40 title professionals. Brian personally is involved in closings up to $70 million. Brian's currently serving as the chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for Bloomfield Township, if anybody has any cases pending. He's a member of the Michigan Electronic Recording Commission and the Michigan Housing Council, past chair of the Real Property Law Section of the State Bar of Michigan, past chair of this Chamber of Commerce, and past chair of Leadership Oakland. Brian was born and raised in this area, growing up as the second oldest of 10 children. Those were the days, right? Fun fact, Brian caddied at the 1972 PGA at Oakland Hills, and nostalgically, therefore, plays at Summerdale and Lincoln Hills. But that's the kind of humble young man that Brian is. Brian is married to the wonderful and extremely patient Beth Henry and has three great kids and a dog named Greta. I've been privileged to know Brian actually and working with him in the legal and communal areas for over 40 years. Truly one of the finest professionals I know, not just because of his knowledge and skill, but because he truly has solidly great values and excellent judgment. He's going to need all of that judgment as he focuses on just those areas of commercial real estate that we really need to know about. Brian, welcome to the podium.
Paul, thank you for all of your hard work and preparation, and like Kathy, that introduction was magnificent, and it's a great pleasure to be with all of you here this morning. I know the significance of this event. I was part of the planning committee that came up with the idea for these forecast breakfasts, and it's really great to see how they've grown. So, So I'm going to talk about 4 things this morning. We have, quite an accomplished audience. So what can I share with you that would be interesting, and what can I do for those people that are in the back that may not be able to see charts and graphs? So we're going to talk about real estate trends and forecasts at a very high level. I'm going to talk about population trends, because population really drives a lot of real estate decisions. It's important for developers, bankers, and lenders to sort of see whether the pro forma and the economics work of a deal based on kind of the demand of the population. We're going to talk about some examples of some of the transformational real estate projects in the area, really to kind of show how mixed use has really been a great success. And at the end, we're going to talk about data centers and as a potential path for growth of Michigan's population. So this is just a high-level summary of the different segments of the market. Office really is a mixed bag. Vacancy is about 20% in some areas. It's not expected that rents in the office, in certain office markets, are going to go up much. In retail, it really kind of depends on where you're at. Redevelopment projects that we're going to talk about, probably some of the better opportunities. There's a lot of redevelopment of shopping malls. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So retail, kind of a mixed outlook on that. Huge demand for industrial and warehouse space. Emily DiAgostini, who's here, would tell you there's a big need in Michigan to have shovel-ready sites for logistic companies, and some of the data centers that I'm going to talk about later. The hotel and hospitality market is occupancy rates are projected to improve slightly, while average daily rates and revenue per room are anticipated to increase around 2 to 3%. But competition from short-term rentals is continuing to pose challenges in that segment. The apartment market, there's steady demand. Limited housing inventory really will drive up rental rates by 3 to 5%, with urban centers like Detroit and Ann Arbor really experiencing the highest growth. And then the affordable, attainable housing, we really could spend almost a full day on that. I'm part of a group that's working on the Michigan State Housing Development Authority statewide housing plan. I'll just say there's significant legislative focus about that. There's been some new tools in the tax increment financing arena and how they can be applied to residential projects that'll be very important for kind of that segment of the market. So this is just, let's go to population now. So here's a chart that just shows the percentage of growth by the fastest growing states by percentage of population. No surprise, those states with the most growth are warm weather climates. So it's in the south and mainly in the Pacific Northwest. This is population growth by the top 10 states in the U.S. in the last 10 years. So we've got California is the biggest state. Michigan is just inside right now the top 10. So to address this situation, the governor formed a bipartisan council, the Growing Michigan Together Council, that's now focused on 4 strategies to address the decline in population. The 4 areas are attracting and retaining talent, improving education, upgrading our infrastructure, economic development, and then they've set as a population goal to get Michigan in the top 10 in terms of population growth. This chart now kind of shows population trends of those top 10 cities since the pandemic. So since all the change in how we go to the office. Kind of interestingly, you see that California actually has had a decrease in population, as well as New York and Pennsylvania, and of course, Michigan, a slight decrease. So Michigan now ranks 49th out of 50 states in growth since 2020, and our population is aging. By 2050, the U.S. population will likely grow by 20 million, but Michigan's population is projected to fall. At one time, Michigan's median income was 114% of the national average, and today we rank 34th in median income among U.S. states. In its 2023 report, the Growing Michigan Together Council identified that Michigan needs to become an innovation hub for the Midwest, and that we must create thriving, resilient communities that are magnets for young talent. So where is the young talent going now? So the Urban Land Institute identified certain supernova markets, which again are not surprising. They kind of line up with the states that are the fastest growing. It's Nashville, Phoenix, Dallas, Atlanta, Austin, San Diego, Boston, San Antonio, Raleigh, and Seattle. So we're losing a lot of our top talent to those type of cities. This is a picture of Broadway Avenue in Nashville. I was just there at a conference. But there's going to be a strain on the infrastructure for those cities, and that could be an opportunity for Michigan. So let's now talk about some of the transformational real estate projects that we've had in our area that might help us retain and attract young talent. So 2 of the obvious examples, we've got Comerica Park here to the left, and you've got Little Caesars Arena to the right. And I'm defining a transformational real estate transaction as a significant real estate deal that fundamentally changes the landscape, the economy, or the community of an area. And you can see that both of those projects would fit that definition. So now let's move to Detroit and talk about the train station. So you're probably all familiar, $1 billion investment by Ford. They're attempting to find a hotel user for the top 10 floors. There's a mixed use of office and retail tenants. The station now hosts over 640,000 square feet. Ford has moved 1,000 of its Model E electric vehicle division employees into the train station. And Google Code Next is also a founding member tenant. Interestingly, Google works with Michigan Central and local nonprofits to train people in Detroit for in-demand jobs by providing access to Code Next and Google career certificates at no cost. Also part of this campus that I'm going to show a picture of you, picture next is the new lab center, which is the renovated book depository. It's home to more than 130 startups and companies and over 600 employees. So this is the new lab building to the left of the train station. We're looking at the train station from Michigan Avenue. The area in front of it is Roosevelt Park. That is about a $6 million 12-acre park in front of the train station. I encourage you, if you haven't visited, go to the train station for a visit. To the right is kind of the opening space there. That's dedicated for special events and groups. This is a view of the east entrance, the retail entrance to the train station. This is actually the first retail tenant. This is Yellow Light Coffee, has great donuts, coffee, and sandwiches there, and that's actually a place where the Ford employees have grown to interact with the entrepreneurs and startup from New Lab. I don't think a lot of people realize the number of buildings that are part of the train station campus. You can see the train station is in the center, that blue structure in the middle. To the right is New Lab. To the bottom right corner is the Bagley Mobility Hub. That's a tech-enabled mobility center offering autonomous vehicle testing, e-bike and e-scooter stations, electric charging, and smart guidance systems. And to the north of it, again, kind of the lighter purple-colored building is the factory, which is a collaborative workspace for Ford's autonomous vehicle and electric vehicle teams. So in terms of an innovation hub, this really is the model, and I think it's a lot more than people realize because it was a significant investment by Ford, and really it's really quite visionary. Behind the train station, there is access to the DeQuinder Cut. If you haven't been on it, I recommend you go down to the riverfront. You can rent a bike and go on the DeQuinder Cut, which is pictured in the right there. This is the area behind the train station. There is a plan to create about a 30-mile bike path called the Joe Louis Greenway. It's going to be a 27.5 recreational pathway to connect Detroit. It'll also include parts of Detroit, Dearborn, Hamtramck, and Highland Park. So the Innovation Hub is not only focused on the development of technology, it's the development of public space where people can interact. And again, if you want to bring younger talent in, you need to offer things that they like to do. You need to kind of have things that are a little out of the ordinary, and this is kind of one of those amenities. My niece got married. She's from Brooklyn. All of her friends from Brooklyn came in. They rode on the DeQuinder Cut, and they just couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe you could be in a downtown area and have something. They were just really impressed with how nice Detroit looked. All right, next transformational project, the Hudson's Tower, $2.7 billion estimate. Once it's fully occupied, it's projected to have 2,000 employees. In comparison, the Renaissance Center at its peak had about 9,500 employees. So now the exterior of the Hudson's Tower is done. It's going to be anchored by the Detroit Edition Hotel and the Detroit residences at the Detroit Edition. Again, high-end residential. GM is going to be the anchor tenant at the top two floors of the 12-story mixed-use office. To give you a comparison, in the Renaissance Center, GM rented about 2.3 million square feet, and in this building, they're going to be taking two floors at about 50,000 square feet each. So now we're going up I-75 to the Big Beaver corridor, looking east. If this picture is a little farther, my childhood home, where I lived with my 9 brothers and sisters, was just west of the Kmart site. I actually saw it being built, and because my office is near, I saw it come down. So this site means quite a bit to me. It was finished in 1969. At its peak, it had 5,500 employees. When Kmart moved its headquarters to Chicago in 2006, there were 2,000 employees and had a parking lot that accommodated 1,400 cars. I remember when that 5 o'clock hit, those cars just lined up on Big Beaver, and they all got pinched going under the viaduct trying to get to Woodward. So here's the site today. I took a picture. So again, we're looking east. You can kind of see Somerset in the background there. That's the view looking down the corridor. And then this is what was voted on last night by the Troy City Council. It's a proposed mixed-use development. The anchor tenant is the University of Michigan Multi-Specialty Ambulatory Center for Clinical and Diagnostic Services. It's going to have 750 residential units, up to 500,000 square feet of office space, and up to 300,000 square feet of retail, and a hotel with up to 250 rooms. The development is actually on 28 acres. There's 12 acres to the north. They're subject to a 1973 consent judgment, but that's the layout. I didn't have time to sort of check on what the vote was, but most people felt that the city council was going to approve it substantially in the same condition that the planners had. So that is a very exciting change to that area of Troy. So, just because we're next to it, let's just talk a little bit about malls. This is a picture of Somerset, and there's the Santa house at Christmas, and you can see Santa here to the left. So you went to the mall for those sorts of activities as a kid. I took my kids to Somerset, have their pictures with Santa. But the future malls is changing. Both Paul and Emily D'Agostini, very active in the International Council of Shopping Centers. They could probably tell you better than I that all the directional malls that we have, Northland Mall, Southland Mall, Westland Mall, Eastland Mall, are all undergoing significant transformational changes. There's some estimates, in Michigan we have about 50 malls. We probably need less than 20. Nationally, there's some projections that in the next 5 years, at least 25% of our malls are going to be torn down or repurposed. Now, we've head up Big Beaver to Telegraph. We're out past Square Lake to the village of Bloomfield. And anybody in Bloomfield Township very familiar with this. I'm on the zoning board. So I certainly feel we actually had Craig Schubner speak at this very conference to talk about Bloomfield Park, which was going to be a high-end, Joe's a smiling high-end project. He built a couple of parking decks, went into bankruptcy. They sat vacant for about 10 years, and Redico did a phenomenal job to repurpose the site. Worked really well with the Bloomfield Township staff. I talked to Sean Valentino about the success of it. It's got a Menards store, an Aldi grocery store, a fitness center, 452 market rate apartments, a Hampton Inn, and a senior living community, and it's been a great success. All of the parcels have been developed, and the center remains fully occupied with 100% tenant retention. It's been a really effective integration of different uses. So we have medical on this site, multifamily, grocery, anchored retail, senior assisted living, fitness. There's a great Planet Fitness there, and hospitality components. So really, really worked well. Great success story. Now we're going to come into Birmingham, 370 East Brown. I took this picture at about Christmas time. It's a 145,000 square foot mixed use building, 50,000 retail and office, and J.P. Morgan Chase has consolidated its operations and taken 42,000 square feet of this office. 2 floors are going to be high-end residential with 22 units. You're going to see a picture of those next. And this really transforms the south end of Birmingham. Prior to living out in Big Beaver, I lived on a little street called Baldwin that goes from Maple to Harmon, and we used to ride our bikes up Maple into Birmingham all the time, but really didn't kind of hang out at this end. It was Shane Park. We went to Wilson Drugs. So this is really going to be a transformational project for that end of Birmingham. So to the left is a more recent picture of what it looks like. To the right, you've got the high-end residential. You can see there's access to a courtyard and patio, really, really nice units. I spoke to the attorney for the developer just last week. He thinks these might be like second or even third homes for certain people that Kathy Broock might be representing. This is a really interesting element on the west side of this development, and I didn't realize this. It's going to have an open courtyard that's open to the public. So you can see to the right here, there's green space sitting, really nice feature that really benefits the community. And then just because Paul made such a big deal about coming into the office, this is what employers are now doing to get people to come to the office. And actually, I think the Chamber had a young professionals event here. This is at 220 Park Street. This is the Highland first floor office space where people come after work to sort of either talk about their fellow employees or potentially clients. I understand there's 2 to 3 events hosted here this year, but it's essentially a sports bar. So you kind of have a sports bar and, nice outdoor seating there. So developer had said, this is really an example of flight to quality, flight to experience, helps attract tenant. The rents that you're, much like Kathy said about the residential rates, the rents that you're going to get in downtown Birmingham are double what you get on that office corridor along Big Beaver, because this is an experience. You can walk out, you can do additional things, and then you got space like this. You can complain or commiserate about your favorite team. March Madness. I'm sure this room is going to be totally filled during the basketball that's coming up. Just a little mention about leadership. Leadership matters in any of these transformational projects. We had the Detroit draft. Mayor Duggan was instrumental in that, but there was a lot of people, if any of you went to that handled significant crowds. The security was great, the layout was great, the food access was great. The city really showed up for that. I've lived here my whole life. I think that's one of the best things we've ever put on, but it really took a lot of great leadership. This is the picture on the left is from the DAC bar, the rooftop during the draft. The city really looked great. And the same thing's really true, I think, with Birmingham. Birmingham's had a master plan and stuck to it. We have groups like the Chamber, I think, that really kind of contribute to life and the benefit of the community. This is that famous corner. This used to be the Wilson Drugs, where I'd go and get my comic book with my friends. We'd go down Maple. There was a Kresge that actually had a fountain that you could sit at and grab it, and you go and sit in Shane Park. And I'd say the transformation for Shane Park is much better. Part of the parking lot's filled in. That's all due to great leadership and good thinking. So leadership matters. And so now let's just pivot a little bit. If you have any interest in light data, I know there's some data geeks out there. There's a book that kind of says that by 2050, kind of in line with the Grow Michigan Together objective, that says that Michigan and the Midwest will be the most desirable place to live due to climate change, due to the fact that we have infrastructure, and the big thing is we have lots of fresh water. So a lot of those other places, if you're at all in interest, that's kind of the central thesis of the book. But here's some of the things we're going to need, and here's some of the investments we're making in infrastructure. We've got water, roads, bridges, data centers going to talk about, and fiber infrastructure are all necessary investments in order to support a growing population. All those other cities I mentioned are struggling with some of these, and those are some of the things that our leadership is going to need to attack. So artificial intelligence and the development of it. So we're really on the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution. I've got a picture of the Highland Park assembly line here. So people originally came to Detroit to get jobs in factories. And potentially, maybe AI could be the same thing for our state. Why? Well, AI is dependent on the use of data centers. What do data centers do? So machine learning requires a lot of data. It requires a lot of high-end computer equipment. It requires a lot of room. And it also requires a lot of energy and cooling management due to the heat that's generated from the hardware. So Michigan may have, if we can work through things, some opportunities to attract data centers. We've got a strategic location. We're located in the Midwest. We share a border. We've got the longest border with another country, with Canada. We have abundant water resources that are useful to reduce operational costs. Our climate's actually an advantage. If you're in a hotter community, keeping that computer equipment cooler, it drains even more energy, because, if you have 120 temperature in downtown Phoenix, it's not quite as bad as our summers here. We've got tax incentives. We've given certain tax breaks to sale and use tax for data centers. And then we're expanding our fiber optic structure. What's the importance of the data center? Well, it's a bit debatable. One of the questions they gave to Paul is there are some negative consequences to it. Environmentally, these data centers can take up about 200 acres, might have solar panels to help generate the site, or generate the necessary electricity for the center. But they will attract other businesses because people want to be closer to them. It's a bit like the closer you are to your internet connection, the stronger the connection is. The closer you are to the data center, the faster you can have AI work, the more efficient it is. So there is a benefit for other companies locating near a data center because generally the number of jobs they generate is about 200. And so just a couple examples, Microsoft's got a data center in the works, as does Google. And I see that Joe is getting ready to pull the hook for me. So I just want to conclude that with the work that's being done by the Grow Michigan Together Council, together with our local leaders in the private sector, I think Michigan has a path towards population growth. The commercial real estate community has a critical role in help shaping thriving, resilient communities. And you got, we've done great work in Detroit, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, and Kalamazoo that I think has a track record that should give us some confidence in building these types of communities that attract talent. So my forecast is that I'm betting on Michigan, its business community, its leadership, and its philanthropic community and its local talent to become a top 10 state for growth in the next 25 years.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you for being mindful of me standing next to you. I just have to do that subtly, so. But wow, what a great program. Let's give a hand to our moderator and our speakers. Some great information. And as I said at the opening, we will make all of the PowerPoint presentations and a video of this morning available to you. So watch your email in the next day or so, and you should all get it. Please share it with your friends, colleagues who you think might benefit from the information. We certainly want to thank our speakers. We want to thank our sponsors. We want to thank all of you for filling the room for us this morning. Again, our final forecast breakfast of the year will be on April 9th, where we will talk about artificial intelligence, which Brian did a great segue in at the end of his presentation. I didn't know he was going to do that, but thank you, Brian. It should be another great program. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you for all for coming. We hope to see you soon. And if you're not yet a member of the Chamber and you liked what you saw this morning and think you would benefit from membership, please let us know. We'd be happy to bring you into the fold. Thank you.